Hello everyone and welcome back to Color Scholar. In today's video, we are going to learn how we can apply tilt shift effect that gives kind of a miniature like effect in Photoshop. So let's get started. The tilt shift effect makes aerial views of landscapes look like model villages. And why is that? Because when you photograph a scene from a distance, like from a mountain or from a plane, everything is so far away that it's all in focus. But when you photograph a model village, you are so close to the subject that the foreground and background tend to be out of focus, and you can replicate this effect in Photoshop using the tilt shift blur filter. So the first thing is you need a photograph taken from high up with the subject roughly in center. I have provided the download link for the image used in this video, and you can download that and use it as a practice. So let's make a duplicate copy of this layer by pressing Ctrl+J on the keyboard or Command+J for Mac. Then we need to make the layer or the image to a smart object so that whatever filter we apply to the image, it will be applied non-destructively. Which means if after applying a certain filter, if I want to go back and adjust the settings again, I will be able to do that. So let's make this image a smart object by right clicking on the gray area and selecting Convert to Smart Object. After that, go to Filter, Blur Gallery and Tilt Shift. A new window will open up where we can now adjust the tilt shift effect. These two inner solid lines represents the area that is in focus, and the space between the solid line and the dotted line represents the increment of blur from 0 to the specified value, and the area beyond these dotted lines denote the maximum amount of blur according to the value we provided. So by default the value for the blur is 15. Let's make it 20 pixels. So now let's position the solid lines such that these red buildings are completely in focus. So let's position it like so and bring it a little down. So now we have determined the area that will be in focus. Now let's look at the areas that will be out of focus. In the foreground, the blur should take place fairly gradually, but in the background, where the distance is compressed, it should be more sudden. And to achieve this, just drag the dotted lines towards the solid line, like so, and that's it. Now we are seeing the miniature effect, but there is a problem. Although the foreground and background are properly blurred, the sides are still sharp because they are on the same horizontal plane as the main building. But they are far away from the building, so they cannot be in such a focus. Therefore, we need to blur them out as well. And to do this, we're going to use fill blur, which is available right here in the blur gallery. And as soon as you click on the fill blur, a blur will be applied. But let's make the value of this blur to 0 so that it doesn't undermine our tilt shift blur, and bring this blur to the center where the building is in focus. After that, go to the right side and click once and give it a little bit of blur, say 12, and to the left as well, and bring it a little closer. Let's make it about 11. So now we have successfully blurred the sides as well. Now after we are satisfied with the blur, select high quality and click on OK. So here's the result after applying these two blurs. There are places where blur shouldn't be applied, especially the towers which are horizontally higher up the image but are not further into distance than the building to which they are attached. So we need to bring those towers in focus as well. And when you apply a filter to a smart object, you get a mask by default right here. And we are going to use this mask to remove any unnecessary blur from the image. So first of all, select the mask and select the brush tool. Make sure your foreground color is black, because black removes and white shows. And keep the opacity at 100 and flow at 100. Zoom into the tower with the mask selected. Just paint the tower back. Make sure you're using a soft round brush. Let's keep the hardness at about 50 or so, and just paint on the tower so that the tower comes in focus as well. You can toggle between the foreground and background color by pressing X and add in the unnecessary blurs. After that, we can boost the saturation by applying a hue saturation adjustment layer to give it a more toy-like feeling, and we can boost the saturation to about 18%. We can also add a little bit of noise to make it more photorealistic, and the quicker way is to go back to the blur gallery by clicking right here. And as we applied a filter to the smart object, we can go back to the filter and adjust our values. And right now in blur gallery, go to noise, and in amount let's increase the grain to about 6% and click OK. And to do a little bit of color grading, let's flatten the image by pressing Ctrl plus Shift plus Alt and E and make it a smart object as well. Then go to filter, camera raw filter, and make some adjustments. Decrease the opacity, decrease the exposure a little bit, increase the contrast, decrease the highlights, increase the shadows, increase the whites as well, decrease the blacks a little bit, touch of texture and clarity, increase the vibrance. Then go to sharpening and sharpen the image a little bit. Go to effects and give it a little bit of vignette and press OK. And that is how we can achieve tilt shift effect in Photoshop. Just try this effect to your photos and see the difference. But make sure your photos need to be aerial view from higher up to get the best results. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you back for some more. See you next time on Color Scholar.